In this tutorial, we're going to show how to use the layer management tools to simplify our design, making it easier to select different vectors for different types of toolpath. For example, in this project, we're going to create some pocketing toolpaths around the top area. We're going to create a pocketing toolpath in the bottom area, a raised prismatic toolpath for the lettering, and an engraving or a V-carving toolpath for the detail of the wharf, and then finally cut the sign out. If we open the layer management tool, you'll see here that we've got everything imported onto one single layer. So we've got a layer called Import Howling Wolf. Everything in the design is on that one layer. We can use the layer control options to move different vectors onto new layers. So for example, I can select this top pocketed area, right click on this, use the option on the quick menu to move to layer. We can say new layer. Let's call this top pocket. Give this a color, so we'll make that light blue. Click OK. Now the layer is left visible for the moment. Click in the background and you'll see that vector is now being drawn as blue. We've also got the layer in the list here, so the layer control manager shows the new layer in the list, and this can be made visible or invisible by clicking on the little checkbox. Let's now select the text on the bottom here, so click and drag, select the text objects, and again right hand mouse button, move to new layer. Let's call this text. Give this a color, we'll make this red. Again, leave it visible. Click OK. So clicking in the background, the text is now drawn, displayed in red, and we've got the option in the layer control tree, so we can switch this on or off. Okay, so now we've started to add different layers that can be switched on or off to make it easier to select other objects in the design. And so for example, this area for the detail in the wolf head, we can drag and select now, right hand mouse button, move this to a layer, and we'll call this wolf detail, and we'll make this a sort of dark green. So click OK. So there's the wolf. So now we can switch this on or off. Using the top option here, the little checkbox will switch everything off or switch everything back on again. So we've set things up and moved them onto new layers that can be made visible or invisible by clicking on the arrows here. So now we've got everything on different layers. I'm going to close the layer control manager. Let's swap from the drawing tab to the toolpath tab. And let's just leave the layer control open for a moment. So toggle the layer manager on. So we've just got the layer manager visible, and this can float around the interface. We can also resize this, so we can make it bigger or smaller. So let's make it sort of that sort of size, as small as possible really. Now with the layer manager open, I can say, okay, we're now going to switch everything off apart from the top pocketed area. So this is the area that I wish to machine as a pocket. So I'm going to say create a pocketing toolpath. Before we do that, I'd always recommend checking your material properties. So here we've got 1.5 inch thick material. Let's have a retract height of 0.1 of an inch. And at the end of cutting, we'll get the tool to lift 1 inch above the material. So click OK. So we're going to create a pocketing toolpath. So we're going to pocket to a depth of 0.5 inch. And if we just use a single tool, let's say a 1/4 inch end mill, if I say calculate that toolpath, we get a very dense toolpath. If we look at the estimated machining time for this, so we say estimate the machining time, the software is telling me that it's going to take 50 minutes just to machine that area out, which is going to take quite a long time. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is use two tools. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch end mill to finish the profile, the detail, but I'm going to use a bigger tool. So this time let's use our 1/2 inch end mill to get rid of as much material as possible in a single go. So we'll say that this can cut to full depth in one pass. So click OK and calculate. Now we've got two toolpaths here. if we look at the estimated machining time, we've now come down to 14 minutes as opposed to 50 minutes. So what we would now do is we'd say use the 1/2 inch end mill, preview this toolpath. That's going to get rid of the stock material for us. Let's just add some color to this. So we'll say add some color. Let's make this a sort of turquoisey color. And then we would change the cutter for the 1/4 inch end mill, and this will profile round and pick out a little bit more of the detail. So preview this toolpath, and you'll see that that's just profiled round. Just it's machined away some of the detail in the corners. You'll see in the mouth and also in the areas on the little Christmas tree there. If we change the color for that toolpath just to be red for a moment, you'll see where that toolpath's machining material away. But I'm going to make this the same color as the other toolpath for the moment. So that's calculated the top area. So we pocket machined using 2 toolpaths. If we go back to the design view, switch off the pocketed area, and let's switch on the wharf detail. So with these vectors visible, I can click and drag. This time I'm going to use an engraving toolpath. So we're going to say Vcarve to a flat depth of say 0.2 of an inch. We'll use a 90-degree 1/2 inch diameter V-bit for the detail, and to get rid of the flat area we'll use a little 1/4 inch end mill. So 1/4 inch end mill, calculate these 2 toolpaths. So now we've got the pocketing toolpath. If we select that toolpath, that's a 1/4 inch. We can say preview, and we then change the cutter for our V-bit, say preview that, and that gives us the detail for the wharf. We can give these 2 toolpaths some color. So we'll say let's add some color. Let's make these a dark red, and the detail also dark red, like so. Next, I'm going to machine a pocket in the bottom of the design. So to do that, I'm going to switch everything on. I'm going to switch off the the top pocket, and we'll switch off the wharf detail design. Now I'm going to machine between the text, and if we double click on the text, it selects everything on that layer. Holding the shift key down, I'm going to select the outer boundary, and we're going to pocket machine the background material away, leaving the text raised. So we go back to the toolpath operations. Now we've already done this, a pocketing operation using a 1/2 inch end mill and a 1/4, and I'm going to use the same toolpath setup for this bottom area. So if we select this toolpath and we say copy, okay, so now we've got a toolpath here that's a duplicate. Let's double click and let's call this bottom pocket region. Remember, if we double click on the vectors on the vector layer, it selects the layer, all the vectors on that layer, and then shift and select the outer boundary. So we're going to pocket machine the background away, and we'll carve this 3/4 of an inch deep. So we're going to use a 1/2 inch end mill to get rid of the stock, and the 1/4 inch end mill to machine around the detail. So now we say calculate. You'll see now that we've got pocket, bottom pocket. We've got the 1/2 inch end mill toolpath. Preview that. So this gets rid of as much material as we can, as fast as we can. And then we change the cutter to the 1/4 inch bit. So this is going to profile machine around. Preview that toolpath and pick out some of the detail around the lettering. So this is going down in small incremental steps. Now we could change this to cut in a single pass because it's just cleaning up the edge of each of the letters. If we were, needed to increase the speed or the efficiency of machining, let's make these toolpaths. Let's give them some color. So we'll make these sort of blue, and the larger pocket area will also make that a blue color. So now we've got the lettering raised proud, but instead of it just being 2D, I want this to have a bevel edge or a prismatic edge to the lettering. So if we go back to the design view, deselect, so we've got nothing selected. let's create a prismatic or prism carving toolpath. If we double click on the lettering, it selects the lettering. Let's say we're going to cut this with our wide angle 90-degree 1.25" diameter V-bit cutter. The software is telling me, if I click on set depth, it's telling me to get a sharp edge on the top of the widest letters, we need to be machining at least 0.71 of an inch deep. I've pocketed the background away 3/4 of an inch, so we should be okay. Let's calculate this toolpath. So you'll see now, if we say preview the prism carving toolpath, let's rename that. So double click and we'll say prism carve text, recalculate. So if we preview that toolpath, this is forming a prismatic edge on the lettering. And let's give that a different color. So we'll say set the color for the letters to be a sort of goldy color, like so. So we've now got the prism edged lettering form there. Next, we're going to cut the shape out. So we go back to the design view and select the outer edge. Calculate a profiling toolpath. So we're going to profile all the way through the 3 inch thick material. We'll use our 1/4 inch end mill, cutting around the outside. Now we could cut it out and the sign would break free. So what I'm going to do is just add some tabs here. So add some tabs. Let's make these tabs so that we can see them. We'll make them 2 inches long and we'll make them 0.3 of an inch. Let's make them 0.5 of an inch thick. Edit the tabs. So click where we want the tabs to go. So let's say we want tabs on the extreme edges, like so. Let's put a tab on this side, one on the top. Close. Now if we say calculate this toolpath, before we do that, let's just check the pass depth of 1/2 an inch, which is good. Calculate the toolpath. Sorry, the software is now telling me that I'm asking it to cut 3 inches deep, which is a mistake. The material is only 1.5 inches thick. So click OK and you'll see that that's gone all the way through the material and into the bed of the machine. Not very good. So double click to edit. Let's make this a depth of 1.5 inches. Recalculate. So now if we look along through the sign, you'll see that it's now cutting just through the 1.5 inch thick material, and we've got the little bridges in place holding our sign. So now if we select this toolpath and we say preview, it's going to profile around the outer edge. If we look down through the edges, you'll see now that we've got the little bridges holding the sign in place. If we wanted this to be all the way through, we would literally say edit the toolpath, no tabs, so this will now cut all the way through the material. Preview the toolpath, and now we can say delete the waste material. So we're just left with our sign in place, and we could now save that as an image. So we could say, okay, really we're going to cut this out of a different piece of material. Instead of a cherry, let's make this out of a solid color, so a solid black, for example. And we could take an image of this. So we could say save image, give this a name, so Howling Wolf sign for a client or for an image on our website, and save it as a JPEG or a bitmap file. Once we're happy with the design and the toolpath, so we can estimate the cutting time here. So total machining time would be just over 2 hours. The times for each of the different toolpaths here. We can now select the save toolpaths, select each toolpath in turn, select the post processor for our machine, and save these toolpaths ready to run and cut on the CNC router or the CNC machine. So just to summarize, let's go back to our 2-dimensional design. We've used the layer management tool, so layer, toggle layer manager. We've added some new layers, and we've organized our data with different elements on different layers that we can then switch on or off, making it easier to select and work on the design. Once we've set up the layers correctly, making them more manageable and easier to access, We've then come across and calculated a pocketing toolpath. We've then done a pocketing toolpath with 2 tools. We've then done a pocketing toolpath on the bottom area with 2 tools again to improve the speed of cutting. We've then engraved or V-carved the detail for the wolf. We've then machined some raised prism lettering around the text. And finally, we've cut the shape out. And we've added different colours to different parts of the sign using the preview. Assign colours to different parts to assign colours to each of the different toolpaths. And you'll see here next to each cutter there's a little colour, little square colour next to each tool, which represents the colour that we've got selected. So for example, if we said, okay, the detail on the wolf, we really wanted that to be in white, and we'll say the V-carving toolpath to be in white as well. So we can change the colours very quick and easily, and then we can save the image as an image file, as a JPEG or a bitmap, and we can use that for promotional purposes or for getting approval for cutting from a customer. And then finally, we'd save the toolpaths and run them on the CNC machine. Thank you for watching the tutorial.